Madam President,
Senator from Oklahoma.
I ask unanimous consent that quorum call in progress be vitiated.
Without objection.
And Madam President, I ask to be recognized for such time as I shall consume.
Without objection.
You know, I came back today and really had good news. It was good news over the weekend. I think a lot of the people have gotten together on both sides, in the House and the Senate, and you do what we're supposed to be doing. You know, I've often referred to that old instrument called a Constitution that says there are two things, main things we're supposed to be doing here, and one is defending America, and the other is building roads and bridges. That's what we are supposed to be doing here. And you've heard me say before that my top priority as chairman of the Environment and Public Works Committee is and continues to be passing a long-term highway reauthorization bill. The last one we passed was 2005. And I was proud to be the author of it at that time. It expired at the end of 2009, and since that time we have not had anything except short-term extensions. I have to remind my friends, my conservative friends, because I'm a conservative, that the conservative position is to have a long-term reauthorization bill, because the short terms cost about 30% off the top. Now, as a result, the industry, stakeholders, and local government leaders have lost faith in Congress's ability to provide funding certainty to maintain and advance our surface transportation infrastructure. The ranking member, Barbara Boxer, and I have been fighting to change this and reverse the trend of wasteful short-term patches for a long period of time. On June the 24th, our committee, and this is very unusual for this to happen, our committee unanimously voted to advance the DRIVE Act, which is a 6-year reauthorization bill, to the Senate. In July, the Senate gave strong bipartisan support by a vote of 65 to 34. That's a 2-to-1 majority. Again, this is not something that normally happens with a major piece of legislation. And also included contributions from the Senate Commerce Committee and the Senate Banking Committee. So it's not just the Environment and Public Works Committee, it's the other committees that have parts of this legislation also. The Senate worked hard and across party lines to put forward a solution for our nation's roads and bridges. We ended the summer by passing yet another short-term patch in order to give more time for the House to join our efforts. Now, unfortunately, we are now 3 days away from facing another cliff, and the two chambers have not yet been able to conference a long-term transportation solution. But I just talked to Chairman Schuster of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and they marked up a 6-year reauthorization bills just this last Thursday, and I'm proud to see that both chambers are on similar pages. Both bills recognize the need for a national freight program. We approach it just a little bit differently than each other, but nothing that can't be reconciled in a matter of minutes. Further environmental streamlining, this is something that's absolutely necessary. Both bills are doing that. We place a new focus on innovation, provide states with flexibility. You know, I know that in my state of Oklahoma, when we give the flexibility to the states, we get a lot more done. This idea that no good ideas are put to work unless they originate in Washington is just not true. But also it's the long-term certainty that's there that we are very much concerned with, and it's a reality. Now, we're now one step closer to putting America back on the map and as a place to do business. It's my understanding that the House intends to move Chairman Schuster's 6-year reauthorization bill through the full House over the next 2 weeks. I just talked to him a few minutes ago. Unlike in years past, I expect a very short conference period, and because we still face this important process, Congress will need one more extension to get us to the finish line. The finish line should be the 20th of November, and it can be done. And I don't see any, and by the way, when I say a very short conference period, it's because there's very little difference between the House bill and the Senate bill. So when I've talked to the likely conferees, they are in accord with the idea that we can do this in a matter of hours, not days. Now, I realize there are a lot of moving discussions on larger deals on the debt limit and budget caps. However, there is agreement that the surface transportation bill can and will move on its own timeline. The House will move a short-term extension to November 20th this week. I've talked to the ones I've talked to have assured me that's going to happen. And I hope the Senate passes it quickly so the House can move the T&I reported bill on the floor and we can move to a quickly resolved conference. Due to the similarity in both bills, I'm confident we can and should have this on the President's desk by Thanksgiving. Now, if we fail to get this done by November 20th, we're going to be faced with two significant hurdles. First, Congress has other pressing deadlines to address in December, to include December 11th, when legislation funding of the federal government expires, and December 31st, when a host of important tax provisions will expire, and another December 31st deadline would be the provisions of the National Defense Authorization Act. I can remember in years past when we got dangerously close to December 31st. And one time was when the Big Four had to take it, and it was not even a product of the committees. I was one of the Big Four. And we were able to pass it, and we came so close to December 31st, it was scary. I mean, here we are in the middle of a bunch of wars, and all of a sudden you would have provisions out there, the re-enlistment bonuses, hazard pay, and things that would expire. Nothing would be worse than to have our kids in combat facing that. Well, we're addressing these deadlines that will require Congress's undivided attention. Some of the solutions for these bills could result, I fear, in members attempting to siphon off the payoffs of the DRIVE Act. Now, that's why this is important. The second significant hurdle we face is that later this year, the Highway Trust Fund will drop to a dangerously low level. As DOT Secretary Fox has warned, at that point, agencies at the federal and state level will begin to implement cash management procedures that significantly affect the state's construction seasons. And in some, we would lose, in the majority of the United States, a construction season in such states as Iowa and those northern states. Now, mark my words, a failure for Congress to enact a long-term bill by Thanksgiving will result in a loss of a 2016 construction season. Congress is going to return to its current pattern of short-term extensions. Again, short-term extensions siphon about 30% off the top. And it's a terrible outcome that's should be avoided at all costs. And we have the opportunity to do it now by making industry and states continue to hold their breath in budgets. We rob taxpayers of cost-efficient project planning and continue to stall on launching major economy boosting projects. Just look at my state of Oklahoma, which lost $63 million in construction dollars over the last few years as a direct result and efficiency in contracting uncertainty that comes from short-term extensions. I've used that figure of 30% off the top to some of my conservative friends, and I said, you know, if you oppose a long-term extension, a long-term reauthorization bill, then you're saying you want to have the liberal alternative, which is to lose 30% off the top. Now, with a fully funded long-term reauthorization, Oklahoma would actually see a savings of $122 million and millions more in efficiency savings from long-term commitments and early completion savings from contracts. This is something that a lot of people don't realize, that the streamline you get, many of the NEPA requirements, the environmental requirements can be offset if you're able to get to a long-term bill. But you can't do it. You can't start any large projects, not any of these big projects, the bridge projects and others, you can't do on short-term extensions. So we haven't had an authorization bill since 2005, and I believe it's time for Congress to fulfill its constitutional duty to fund our roads and our bridges. As I stated earlier, I'm confident that the Senate and House will work together to get this bill to the President's desk within the next few weeks. It's my wish that my counterpart on the House side, Chairman Schuster, the best of luck in moving forward. He is now committed to doing that. He's going to get this done. He kept his word and getting the job done last Thursday, and now he's going to be able to get this bill up so that we can conference it together. I had to anticipate we could do a conference in a matter of just a few hours. It wouldn't take the normal time. So that's good news. It's good news to come back on a Monday and find that we're going to be doing what the Constitution says we ought to be doing, and that is roads and bridges. With that, I yield the floor, suggest the absence of quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.